Thank you, Carl, and good morning, everybody. Welcome to Second Unitarian Church. I'm John Broom, a member of the church's Board of Trustees. My pronouns are he and him. Today, we're in person at the Admiral at the Lake and here in the 2U Sanctuary and continuing to meet virtually using Zoom. We ask everybody's indulgence for the complications of a three-part service. We're glad you're here regardless of your mode of attending. If you're joining today via Zoom, instructions for closed captioning and chat are in your order of service. When we would traditionally sing together and read things in unison, you're encouraged to do so as well, even though you're either masked or on mute. Our voices echo through the world, so we will hear one another if we listen closely and sing with our full spirit. We're paying close attention to COVID recommendations. That could mean changes at any time, but for now, we recognize that masking and physical distancing are acts of love and protection. Please see the 2U website for our most recent COVID information. We especially welcome newcomers and visitors and returning folks this morning. Finding a new community and making new connections can be challenging, but please know we're excited to have you and look forward to getting to know you. So if you're new to us today, please note that in the Zoom chat, mention it in person during the chats after service, or if you're staying for coffee hour, blue cups. Our worship today is led by Claire Gervaisi. Claire's been a member of 2U since 2019 when they relocated to Chicago from Louisville, Kentucky, where they attended First Unitarian. At 2U, they coordinate small group ministry and facilitate small group. Outside 2U, Claire is a trained Montessori early childhood educator, which is a big deal, and currently works as a freelance handyman and house manager. Music this morning is provided by Carl Kennedy, our director of music, and our soloist, Patty Kennedy. Now, our time together requires a huge number of people that make the worship and the music and the technical production possible. They're listed in the order of service. We thank them for their ongoing service to the congregation. You can find more information and announcements in the order of service. Our worship associate, Ellen Rocket, will now lead our call to worship.
We are a Unitarian Universalist congregation, a community of children, youth, and adults, a people of many beliefs and traditions, bound not by the specific list of things we believe, but the values we share. Whether you are joining us for the first time or the 1000th time, you are welcome here. Whether you believe in God some of the time, all of the time, or none of the time, you are welcome here. Whatever your race, whomever you love, whichever way you move in the world, however much money is in your pocket, you are welcome here. I invite you now, as you feel moved, to take a breath in and out. As the music begins, let us enter into our service together.
Hi, give me a moment. Technical difficulties. In just a moment, Harris at the Admiral and Francis Gervasi, my kiddo, here in the sanctuary will light our chalices, the symbol of our faith. We light our chalice this morning with these words from Robin F. Gray. By the light of this chalice, we prepare for the future. We prepare ourselves for the times of triumph and times of trial that might come. We prepare ourselves to be present to one another with loving hearts, even in the most difficult times. We prepare ourselves to make the connections that will lift us out of isolation and prepare the path of justice and equity. Will you light the chalice, please? Maybe I put too much in there.
Please rise in body or in spirit and join us in singing hymn number 126, Come Thou Fount of Every Blessing. The words are printed in your order of service and will appear on the screen. Come thou fount of every blessing, tune our hearts to sing thy grace. Streams of mercy never ceasing, call for songs of loudest praise. While the hope of life's perfection fills our hearts with joy and love, teach us ever to be faithful. May we still thy goodness prove. Come thou fount of every vision, lift our eyes to what may come. See the lion and the young lamb dwell together in thy home. Hear the cries of war fall silent, feel our love glow like the sun. When we all serve one another, then our heaven is begun. Come thou fount of inspiration, turn our lives to higher ways. Lift our gloom and desperation, show the promise of this day. Help us bind ourselves in union, help our hands tell of our love. With thine aid, O fount of justice, earth be fair as heaven above.
Please continue to stand and join me in reciting our covenant. The words will be on your screen. We covenant to build a community that challenges us to grow and empowers us to honor the truth within ourselves. We will be generous with our gifts and honest in our communication, holding faithful to a love that embraces both diversity and conflict. Called by our living tradition, we will nurture spirituality within a vision of the eternal, living out our inner convictions through struggles for justice and acts of compassion.
Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots only close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me.
Now is the time for all ages, which is always my favorite part of service. Today, I would like to play for you a video, and then we'll have a little chat about it.
Now by Antoinette Portis. This is my favorite breeze. This is my favorite leaf. This is my favorite hole. This one, because it's the one I'm digging. This is my favorite mud. This is my favorite worm. That is my favorite cloud, because it's the one I am watching. This is my favorite rain. That was my favorite boat. This is my favorite tree, because it's the one where I am swinging. This is my favorite smell. This is my favorite bird. And this is my favorite song, because it's the one I am singing. This is my favorite gulp. This is my favorite bite. This is my favorite tooth, because it's the one that is missing. This is my favorite hug. This is my favorite moon. And this is my favorite now, because it's the one I am having with you. The end.
That was Now by Antoinette Portis, who I highly recommend. She's an excellent children's book author. And I'm wondering if that little story inspired in you any memories of a time when you got so interested in something you forgot what time it was or anything else around you. And I wonder if you can think about that for a moment and maybe share with the person next to you a time when the whole world melted away and you became lost in an experience. And for those at home, if you want to write something in the chat, that's very welcome. Would anyone like to share a memory? I know that usually we invite the children up here to talk, but we don't have any children in the sanctuary today. except for mine. Would you like to share, Francis? Okay. Margot. A memory of a child that you were reading to while they sat on your lap. That's fantastic. Yes, Christy.
Multiple times reading books and missing LSATs.
Can you say it louder? I didn't hear.
Multiple times reading books and missing LSATs because of it.
Reading books on the L and missing your stop. Absolutely. Very relatable. Yes. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate you all's memories. And now I would like to move to the invitation to giving. Each year, we all make a commitment, a pledge, to support the ministry of our church. In addition to this contribution, each Sunday we take a collection so that we can share with those doing justice beyond our church community. While we are unable to all come together in person, you can still share your resources. To make your contribution, you can go to our website, or you can send a text to the number on the screen, or in the sanctuary, you can put your donation in the box at the back. For the month of July, we are sharing our plate with the Lighthouse Foundation's Voices of Light Black Queer Music Collective. The Lighthouse Foundation combines both a Black Queer caucus, who encourages Black queer flourishing through art programming, mental health programming, and directs issues identification and care, a coalition of accomplices for radical equity, who organizes externally by holding LGBTQ+ institutions accountable to service the LGBTQ+ community equitably. And today, from the Lighthouse Foundation, I am very blessed to tell you all that Pastor Jamie Frazier is here to say a few words about the work that they do.
Beloved, good morning. Let's try that again. Good morning. The last time that I was with the Second UU congregation, it was virtually during the pandemic. And Salt and Pepper's Let's Talk About Sex, Baby was one of the songs that happened during worship. Folks had on lingerie. I was like, this is my kind of church. So I am really excited to be able to share with you in person. I talk about that virtual service every place that I go, because that to me was an example of something that was truly relevant, something that pierced culture, and something that made me want to watch Zoom, which is a hard thing to do. We are so grateful to have Second Unitarian Universalist Church as one of the 13 churches that partner with Lighthouse Foundation as we fight for Black queer liberation across Chicagoland. I wanted to lift up one or two victories that we have been able to secure together. During the height of the pandemic, we raised and distributed $16,000 in mutual aid funds to Black queer people across Chicagoland in micro grants of $250. And we didn't require people to fill out 8 contracts and give us their second-born child. We just asked them to fill out a Google form to state why they needed the money, and then we sent it through Zelle, we sent it through Venmo. We were able to do that because congregations like this stepped up and have helped to support our work financially. Another great victory is Black Queer Pride. It started as a way of creating virtual programming during the height of the pandemic so that we could get money into the hands of struggling Black queer gig workers. We did over 4 virtual Pride celebrations that put more than $20,000 into the hands of Black queer poets and singers. Beloved, the church is strong and it is enduring because of its generosity, because of its compassion, and because of its heart for justice. I am so grateful that Second UU continues to stand not just for justice in silos or isolation, but justice at the intersections. because we do not live single identity lives. And so I am grateful for the partnership between your congregation and Lighthouse Foundation. I will have to slip out a little bit early today because the other hat that I wear is pastor of Lighthouse Church, UCC, and we start at 11:30 a.m. But it is such a pleasure to be in worship with you this morning, and we are grateful for your partnership.
Thank you so much for sharing that with us. Now I invite you to join me in reading our offertory words. The words are printed in your order of service and will be on your screen. This church is the community of ourselves. Its energy and resources are our energy and resources. Its wealth is what we share. As we contribute to the life of this community, we affirm it and enable its participation in the larger world around us. The offering will now be generously given and gratefully received.
I invite you now into the spirit of prayer and meditation. Let us start by breathing together. Take a breath in and out. We begin in thanks, thankful for the breath in our lungs, the beauty of our earth, and the strength of this community. We hold in our hearts those who care for family in ill health, those who live with grief or chronic pain, those struggling with addiction or illness, seen and unseen. We are with you. For parents and teachers and all those whose primary spiritual practice is caring for children, we are with you. We pray for our neighbors in prison, for those who are struggling to stay afloat in the midst of poverty. We are with you. We pray for all those living in harm's way. We pray for our planet and commit to work that will lead us away from the harms of climate change. We pray that wisdom, compassion, and empathy guide the leaders of our world. May they and we be instruments of a just and lasting peace. Our lives are blessed by those who knowingly, with curiosity and courage, face their final days. Into this shared silence, I invite you now to speak the name of anyone you wish to lift up into the loving support of this community. With our deepest compassion, let us hold in our hearts those named and unnamed, those remembered and those forgotten. Let it be so. Amen. Blessed be. During our ritual of lighting candles for our joys and concerns, we want to continue to maintain our safety with each other. In the 2U sanctuary, you are invited to come forward and light a candle. As you end your time of contemplation and candle lighting, we invite you to use the hand sanitizer available. For those of us at the Admiral, I invite you to come forward and take a pebble from one bowl, hold it tightly, putting your energy into the stone, and then, knowing your joys and sorrows to be shared by this community, let it go lightly into the other bowl. For our friends on Zoom, join us by sharing your joys and concerns in the chat window. And I will light 2 candles here, one representing all our unspoken joys and another for all our unspoken sorrows. We hold all these joys, celebrations, sorrows, and struggles close to our hearts. Ellen Rocket will now share today's reading.
Our reading is On Children by Khalil Gibran. And a woman who held a babe against her bosom said, "Speak to us of children." And he said, "Your children are not your children. They are the sons and daughters of life's longing for itself. They come through you, but not from you. And though they are with you, yet they belong not to you. You may give them your love, but not your thoughts, for they have their own thoughts. You may house their bodies, but not their souls, for their souls dwell in the house of tomorrow, which you cannot visit, not even in your dreams. You may strive to be like them, but seek not to make them like you. For life goes not backwards, nor tarries with yesterday. You are the bows from which your children, as living arrows, are sent forth. The archer sees the mark upon the path of the infinite, and he bends you with his might, that his arrows might go swift and far. Let your bending in the archer's hand be for gladness. For even as he loves the arrow that flies, so he loves also the bow that is stable.
Yesterday, a child came out to wander, caught a dragonfly inside a jar. She was fearful when the sky was full of thunder, and tearful at the falling of a star. And the seasons, they go round and round, the painted ponies go up and down. We're captive on a carousel of time. We can't return, we can only look behind from where we came, and go round and round and round in the circle again. Then the child moved 10 times round the seasons, skated over 10 clear frozen streams. Oh, words like when you're older must appease her, and promises of someday make her dreams. And the seasons, they go round and round, the painted ponies go up and down. We're captive on a carousel of time. We can't return, we can only look behind from where we came, and go round and round and round in the circle again. 16 springs and 16 summers gone now. Well, the cartwheels turn to car wheels through the town. Oh, they tell her, take your time, it won't be long now before you drag your feet to slow the circles down. And the seasons, they go round and round, the painted ponies go up and down. We're captive on a carousel of time. So little time, we can't return, we can only look behind from where we came, and go round and round and round in the circle again. So the years spin by, and now the girl is 20.
Thank you. That was awesome. Just a forewarning, I'm going to talk a lot about Montessori, just so you know. Yeah, so if you don't know anything about Montessori, you're going to learn. And if you do, then I hope it sounds familiar and welcome. One of the first ways that I knew I wanted to be a part of Second Unitarian community is because of the way Reverend Jason's prayer during our time of meditation made me feel. The words, "For parents and teachers and all those whose primary spiritual practice is caring for children, we are with you," struck such a chord with me, not just because I am a parent and teacher, but because with those few words, the work of childcare was valued and acknowledged as real and spiritual work. I have a lot of feelings about that, obviously. Besides being the mother to one amazing 11-year-old, I have worked with children from birth to age 17 in various capacities, both professional and personal, over the course of 20 years. So far, I have been a nanny, a doula, a teacher, a librarian, an aunt, a friend, a babysitter, a neighbor, and a guide to all kinds of children. Perhaps you also have played some of these roles in the lives of children. Most recently, I have worked as a Montessori guide for children ages 1 to 6. For those unfamiliar, Montessori is an educational philosophy named after its founder, Dr. Maria Montessori, who was an early 20th century Italian physician and anthropologist. She developed a method for supporting child development, which today is foundational to the field of early childhood education. Montessori schools today exist all over the world, though she began her first school in Rome in 1907. Montessori curriculum today supports children from birth to age 18, so it's pretty comprehensive. The basic idea is that development into an independent, disciplined human being is the fundamental and inherent mandate of being a child. So adults don't need to teach children anything, actually. Children will do work to meet their developmental needs no matter what we do. So as adults, our only job is to observe the child's development and respond to meet any needs we see that are going unmet. This mostly involves removing obstacles to the child's independence and protecting her concentration. Oftentimes, the biggest obstacle to a child's independence is the adult. So a Montessori learning environment looks pretty bizarre to the average American because no adult seems to be in charge, yet children are peaceful and purposeful. The importance of the adult getting out of the child's way in the Montessori method has helped me personally focus my relationship to child rearing as a spiritual practice. I'll come back to that in a bit. I first want to stress that there are all kinds of ways to be a teacher to children, not just within a school or a nuclear family. Parents certainly are the first and most influential teachers, but there are so many ways to be a significant adult in the lives of children. For my own family, my child is privileged to have many different kinds of adults in his life, and only a few of them are his parents or teachers. He has benefited from a rainbow of uncles and aunties, trans, cis, queer, straight, black, white, brown, rich, poor, urban, rural, etc., who have offered him different kinds of care and different opportunities to learn. And all these ways of being with children are spiritual contributions to the world of tomorrow, because that's where children live. For me, being with children is like being in a time machine. I get to mingle with the future. Time flattens. This happens in a twofold way. First, when observing and interacting with children, time simply collapses for me, and there is only now. And second, through being with children, I momentarily live in a future I will never actually experience. With young children especially, time does not exist in the way that it does for adults. If you ask a 3-year-old, when is your birthday? They will likely say something like, it's next week. Oh, that's really soon. No, that's a really long time from now. Okay, and likely their birthday is 6 months from now. Right? Waiting is incomprehensible to a young child. The concepts of tomorrow and next year are the same thing. Children often tell me that they are going to do something soon. A common example is that Christmas is always coming soon, whether we're discussing it in November or July. Likewise, yesterday was any time in the past. I can't tell you how many times a preschool-age child has told me their birthday was yesterday. Yet that has literally never been true. And have you ever asked a young child to guess how old you are? They are just as likely to guess that you are 13 as they are to believe that you are 100 years old. For those are all incomprehensibly old numbers to contemplate, and everyone is bigger than you when you're 4 years old. This experience of time is infectious. The more time I spend with children, the less concepts like next week, yesterday, or Christmas make any sense. Who can think of such things when there are insects to watch, and flowers to collect, and dances to dance, and games to be played? For me, deep time is most easily accessed when I remain present with children. Perhaps you have also had the pleasure to experience this. For example, have you ever built a sandcastle with a child? Or do you remember building one as a child? And you've got so absorbed in its architecture, in testing how many pails full of sand can be stacked before a landslide brings it down, in how deep the moat must be dug around before it can withstand the waves' attempts to melt it away, in how many holes should be dug out with your fingers so imaginary archers have windows to fling their arrows toward the moat. And suddenly, in answering these questions, and in feeling the sand, and hearing the water, and carrying the bucket, and holding the shovel, whole hours have passed, and you didn't notice the sun slowly crisping your skin. Accessing the eternal now is a spiritual practice, and the now is all that exists for children. Caring for children is therefore a meditative practice, as far as I see it. The wonder of the present is so easily experienced when observing the world through the perspective of a child. Or as Maria Montessori puts it, in the child is much knowledge, much wisdom. If we do not profit from it, it is only because of neglect on our part to become humble and to see the wonder of this soul and learn what the child can teach. Children continually show me how everything in every moment can be my favorite because it is happening with me right now. While this spiritual practice of presence with children is a way to experience the eternal now, spending time with children is also a way of extending one's consciousness into the future. This is simply because the imprint of our love and attention in this moment will be carried with the child and expressed through them years from now, mostly in unconscious, intuitive ways. The imprint of our care, or lack of it, as adults in the lives of children is indelible and unknowable. We can't ever completely understand the impact we have, no matter our role in the child's life. When I think of caring for children in this way, it helps me to be gentle, patient, and intentional with my words and actions with them. Oftentimes it is easy for us, parents, teachers, and other adults, to forget how much power we have. We take it personally when children do not do what we expect or want. Whether it's something big, like performing the gender we assigned them, or something small, like crying and falling to the floor when they're overtired or very hungry, even if it's in the middle of the grocery. But the child is living his own life, not our expectation of his life. And he is living it right now. Remembering that the child is simply expressing himself in the way he knows how in order to try to get his own needs met for his own life helps us as caregivers to remain present so that we can help him meet his own needs. But if we make a difficult moment instead about ourselves or our own needs or expectations, we will certainly succeed, because we have all the power to determine what happens. But if we do that, if we adults make it about us instead of the child, by blowing our feelings of annoyance or impatience or whatever upon them, we change the future. We deviate the child's path from one of self-reliance and capability to one where he turns away from himself and towards the capriciousness of external adult power. What a disservice to rob a child of that opportunity to develop because we forget our power to protect and to guide. Staying present to the child's needs and decentering ourselves in the process is a spiritual practice and has echoes that amplify into the future. And whether we amplify love or resentment is in our power to practice and decide. As I mentioned, I am a Montessori guide. Guide is what we call ourselves instead of teacher, because Montessori is ultimately an observational method, not a teaching method. I just completed training last month. I've been back in Chicago for a week to be a guide for children ages 3 to 6. I'm still reeling from the immense quantity of information I've been processing, as well as the other aspects of preparation that are part of our formation as guides. Honestly, the entire process of Montessori training has felt much more like what I imagine it feels like to join a priesthood, like taking holy orders, than it has felt like earning a diploma in the academic sense. Montessori training is highly theoretical, yes, and that part feels sort of like a collegiate degree program. Indeed, this training, when transferred to the university level, comprises the work of half of a master's degree. And it all focuses on one 3-year chunk of human development. It has taken me 4 years to complete this program, though the typical amount of time is 1 to 3 years. It consists of hundreds of hours of lectures, presentations, project completion, supervised practice, student teaching, observations, and exams. I've traveled to different states to complete the requirements for this diploma. I've spent thousands of dollars and thousands of hours preparing myself to be worthy of caring for children ages 2.5 to 6.5. This training process has been a period not just of mental preparation, but spiritual formation. This is an explicit part of the Montessori training process and why it feels like I've taken holy orders. It's not a religious order, but it's a universal pedagogy, but it feels it is spiritual. Of the preparation of the teacher, Dr. Montessori wrote in her seminal work, The Absorbent Mind, quote, "The real preparation for education is a study of one's self. The training of the teacher who is to help life is something far more than the learning of ideas. It includes the training of character. It is the preparation of the spirit." To illustrate this point, I want to tell you one little anecdote. Some of you might remember the popularity of the slogan WWJD, what would Jesus do? When I was growing up in the 80s and 90s, Christians were very into this slogan, and often my peers at school would wear wristbands with the acronym WWJD written on it to remind them to be Christ-like, I think. So at graduation last week for my Montessori training, one of my cohort members got everyone bracelets for graduation that say WWLD. What would Lakshmi do? Lakshmi is our trainer. This isn't to say that we think of Lakshmi as the Messiah or even as a spiritual leader, but it does speak to the fact that we have been trained in a meditative practice. Much of our way of being with children becomes intuitive, guided by our discipleship to the theory and apprenticeship to our trainer. So thanks to Lakshmi and my cohort and my training, I feel quite prepared to be with children, to learn from them, to witness them, to protect them. I feel ready to practice the eternal now with them and to dwell in the land of tomorrow with them. I have no idea, however, how to make a living at it. Caring for children is a spiritual practice. It is also a profession. I would even consider it a vocation in the Roman Catholic connotation. In Catholicism, the tradition I was raised in, vocational discernment is a process of reflection and prayer, which originally referred only to the call to the priesthood, but has a broader application these days. Vocational discernment is how a person decides which way they feel most called to express their holiness, their way of serving their salvation and the salvation of all humankind. In this belief system, God has created each of us with gifts and talents oriented towards specific purposes and a way of life, and we are called to use those gifts for the common good. So while caring for children is a vocation to which I feel called to share my own gifts and talents, it is also a paid position in our society, and that pay is not commensurate with the import of the job, unfortunately. The average pay for a childcare worker in the United States, according to the US Bureau of Labor Statistics, is $13 an hour, or $24K a year, which is less than minimum wage in Chicago. Childcare workers are the worst paid of any type of care worker in the country. Even within the privileged world of Montessori education, the national average for compensation is $18 an hour, which is $37,000 a year. I believe that our UU principles call us to honor children with the dignity and trust we often reserve only for adults and those with institutional power. Likewise, we are called by our values to honor and support those whose primary spiritual practice is caring for children. Currently, our culture shows little value in caring for children. If childcare worker compensation is any indication, and if the pandemic has shown anything, it has exposed how unwilling we are as a society to stand up for teachers and parents, to support them and the children they care for with the resources they need to thrive. In Montessori, one organizing precept we subscribe to is the very best for the very smallest. Dr. Montessori developed this value from her direct work with children, and although she was a proud Italian Catholic herself, her pedagogy is universal. Nevertheless, I'd like to think that vocation is a concept she applied to her work with children, although I don't know if she ever called it that. She did speak about each person's great work, meaning their ultimate reason for being, their unique contribution to the tapestry of humanity and the cosmos. She developed this lofty idea in her work on cosmic education, which is the path through which children develop a global vision. By developing gratitude for the universe and their own lives within it, the child then takes on an awareness of receiving many gifts from other human beings they will never know. This includes human inventions such as writing, art, and architecture, all things that we benefit from the past discoveries of other humans. The idea that we are all interconnected and contribute to each other's lives in ways we can never know is part of caring for children as a spiritual practice. It seems to me also an expression of the seventh principle of Unitarian Universalism, the respect for the interdependent web of existence of which we are all a part. I know that often the seventh principle is interpreted in the narrow sense of devotion to environmental justice, and that is certainly of paramount importance. But to me, from the perspective of a Montessorian and the child of liberation theology Catholics, the interconnected web is about how we exist here and now because of the work of generations of survivors and imaginative workers before us. And that all of humanity is one family, one body, and what affects one part affects the whole. As Montessori put it in her book, to educate the human potential, we shall walk together on this path of life, for all things are a part of the universe and are connected with each other to form one whole unity. And while the seventh principle focuses on our interconnectedness through time, space, embodiment, and all of existence, the first principle likewise speaks to caring for children as a spiritual value. It states that we respect the worth and dignity of every human being. Applying this principle to our care of children demands a departure from what is typically expected in our culture. Instead of treating children as incapable, weak, unruly, we as UUs are called to respect the inherent dignity of children by recognizing their capacity to contribute now and as they grow into the future. One of the many reasons I love our services at 2U is that children are always considered, included, and encouraged to participate meaningfully, whether as chalice lighters or as contributors to the tech aspects of our Sunday services. I am also proud of the UUA's broader infrastructure to support youth, especially the Our Whole Lives curriculum, which I'm excited we're starting up again here. I'm very grateful for a community that is living into its values in this way, and I look forward to our congregations living into this value even more in the coming years. So to conclude, whether you are a parent, a teacher, or another significant adult, whether you participate in a religious community or spiritual community or not, no matter what family means to you, what you do matters in the lives of children. The care you take with them in one moment or across a lifetime is an opportunity to practice our UU principles and to experience your own spiritual enrichment. Children have so much to teach us if we let them lead. And toward that end, I conclude with this quote, which I'm sure you'll be very surprised to learn is also from Maria Montessori. This social environment for the child must serve to protect him, not in his weakness, but in his inherent grandeur. For he possesses enormous potential energies that promise to benefit all mankind. Let it be so. Amen and blessed be.
Please rise in body or in spirit and join us in singing our closing hymn, number 1002, Comfort Me. The words will be on your screen and are printed in your order of service.
Comfort me, comfort me.
Now I invite you to cross your hands over your heart and hear these words. Here, may you know that you are lovable, and indeed you are loved. And may you carry that love out into the world as a blessing.